The parliament still has the powers to override this. ठीक है? Next heading. Parliamentary legislations in the state field. Parliamentary legislations in the state field. Parliamentary legislations in the state field. मतलब this is the abnormal circumstance जहां पे पार्लियामेंट क्या करेगा? लेजिस्लेट किन मैटर्स पे? मेंशन्ड इन द स्टेट लिस्ट. नंबर 1 है हमारा, वो हमने पढ़ चुके हैं. जो वहां पे बचा है वो हम यहाँ देखेंगे. ठीक है? वो इमरजेंसीज का प्रोविजन, उसमें क्या होता है? एक्सक्लूसिवली वी हैव डेल्ट. नेशनल इमरजेंसी में क्या होगा, होगा कि नहीं होगा? प्रेसिडेंट रूल में क्या होगा, होगा कि नहीं होगा? फाइनेंशियल इमरजेंसी में क्या होगा, होगा क्या नहीं होगा? ठीक है, दैट वी हैव डेल्ट. इसके बगैर देयर आर सम कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजंस which empower the parliament, union legislature to make laws on the subjects enumerated in the state list. ठीक है? Number 1 is Article 249 of the Constitution. Article 249 of the Constitution. It says that if Rajya Sabha, why Rajya Sabha?
क्योंकि that represents the
State body है, ठीक है? Rajya Sabha represents the states. तो if Rajya Sabha itself, which is the representative body of the states, is empowering the parliament to make law on the subjects mentioned in the state list in national interest, then parliament shall assume the law making power of the subjects that are mentioned in the state list. मगर वही सारे subject जो specify करेगा राज्यसभा अपनी resolution में, क्योंकि खाली orally बोलने से कुछ नहीं होगा. राज्यसभा has to pass a resolution by a special majority of 2/3 of members present and voting. ठीक है? By a majority of 2/3 of the members present and voting, Rajya Sabha shall pass a resolution, and we will write in that resolution that this is the matter mentioned in the state list. These 4, 5, 10 matters, or all of the matters, for example, mentioned in the state list. Parliament can make law over these matters because it's in the national interest. Then Parliament shall assume the law-making power over the subjects mentioned in the state list. This is the first article which allows Parliament to enter into state's affair. ठीक है? That's Article 249. You write it. Article 249. Article 249. If Rajya Sabha passes a resolution, by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members present and voting. By a majority of not less than 2/3 of the members present and voting, that it is in the national interest. It is in the national interest that Parliament must legislate over the subjects mentioned in the state list. Then Parliament assumes legislative jurisdiction. Then Parliament assumes legislative jurisdiction over the specified subjects. जो इस रेजोल्यूशन में लिखा होगा, over the specified subjects, over the specified subjects in the state list. ठीक है? And this law remains in operation. And this law remains in operation for a period of 1 year. And this law remains in operation for a period of 1 year and can be renewed. मगर 1 year at a time and can be renewed. And can be renewed. अगर हमने रेजोल्यूशन से पास करवा दिया that Parliament should legislate over the matters mentioned in the state specified subjects, उन specified subjects पे फिर state legislature का power रहता है कि नहीं रहता है? समझ आ रहा है क्वेश्चन? Does state legislature enjoy power to make laws on those specified subjects which has been specified here?
सर रहता होगा तब तक जब तक कि कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ना हो. अगर
It is there. ठीक है, ये पहली बात याद रखो. आर्टिकल 249 does not take away any power. ठीक है, it just gives powers to the Parliament to make laws mentioned on the subject of in the state list, but it does not take any of the powers from state legislatures. State legislatures can also make laws on those subjects as well which are mentioned here, but in case of conflict, central law shall prevail. Write it. This provision does not restrict. This provision does not restrict the power of a state legislature. This provision does not restrict the power of the state legislature to make laws on the same matter. To make laws on the same matter. Does not restrict the power of the state legislature to make laws on the same matter, but in case of inconsistency, between a state law and a parliamentary law, the later shall prevail. ठीक है? This is Article 249. Now it's Article 250. Article 250, जहां पे सेंटर या पार्लियामेंट, सेंट्रल लेजिस्लेचर overrides what? States. Article 250, when national emergency. When national emergency is declared in the country, ठीक है? Under Article 250, Parliament, when there is national emergency, assumes the law-making power over all the subjects mentioned under state list. ठीक है? और same Article 240 does not take away the power of any state legislature. बात आ रही है समझो? It does not take away the power of any state legislature. Why? नेशनल इमरजेंसी है, स्टेट की कोई गलती नहीं है. नेशनल इमरजेंसी इज बिकॉज ऑफ वॉर, एक्सटर्नल एग्रेशन, आर्म्ड रेबेलियन, इसमें स्टेट की कोई गलती नहीं है, इससे हम लॉ मेकिंग पावर नहीं लेंगे, लेकिन टू प्रोटेक्ट द कंट्री वी विल बी इन चार्ज ऑफ स्टेट लिस्ट आल्सो, ठीक है. स्टेट कैन आल्सो मेक लॉ, बट सेम केस इफ देयर इज इनकंसिस्टेंसी पार्लियामेंट्री लॉ शैल प्रिवेल, राइट. और जो ही इमरजेंसी खत्म होगी विद इन 6 months द लॉ मेड बाय पार्लियामेंट ऑन द स्टेट लिस्ट विल बी इन ऑपरेटिंग. During national emergency, Parliament assumes concurrent legislative jurisdiction. Concurrent होता है स्टेट को भी है हमें भी है, एक्सक्लूसिव को खाली एक को. During national emergency, Parliament assumes concurrent legislative jurisdiction over the subjects mentioned under the state list. Over the subjects mentioned under the state list. Over the subjects mentioned under the state list. Full stop. The laws become inoperative. The laws become inoperative on the expiration of 6 months. On the expiration of 6 months. On the expiration of 6 months after the emergency has ceased to operate. After the emergency has ceased to operate. ठीक है. Here the power of state legislature is also intact. And if there is any inconsistency between state law and the parliamentary law, between the state law and the parliamentary law, comma, the latter shall prevail. ठीक है. This is Article 250. Now we have Article 252. Article 252. Under this article, when two or more states requests the Parliament to make laws on the subjects mentioned in the state list, two or more states passes a resolution and requests the Parliament of India, ठीक है, to make laws on the subjects mentioned in the state list, या तो पूरे और specified subjects, खाली इस पे, समझ आई बात, or the specified subjects. Then Parliament assumes the legislative power over the subjects mentioned in the state list or the specified subjects only for those states जिन्होंने ये resolution pass की है. Otherwise state list पे law बनाने की authority is only with the state government, ठीक है, state legislature. But if two or more states combined are requesting the Parliament to make laws on the subjects mentioned in the state list or पूरी state list या specified subjects, then Parliament shall assume the law-making powers, but only for those states which have requested, not every state. ठीक है? But in this case, under Article 252, the state legislatures then have no powers to make laws on those subjects. They surrender their power to the Parliament of India. ठीक है? Earlier उन दो cases में दोनों बना सकते हैं. ठीक है? वो भी और ये भी. In 252, they surrender their law-making powers to the Parliament, and Parliament alone can make laws over those subjects. ठीक है? And the law remains in operation until and unless it is repealed by Parliament itself. And if there is any amendment to be done in this law which has been made by Parliament, it will be done by the Parliament, not the state legislature. ठीक है? This is one of the fields where Parliament enters into the domain of state legislature. Right? If two or more state legislatures, passes a resolution requesting or authorizing the Parliament to legislate over the subjects mentioned in the state list, then Parliament can assume legislative powers over those specified subjects. Full stop. The state legislature ceases to have the power. To make a law with respect to that matter. ठीक है? Full stop. Such a law can be amended or repealed. Only by the Parliament. And not by the legislatures of the concerned states. ठीक है? Next, Article 253. Article 253. Article 253. Parliament can make law on any subject mentioned under state list. On any matter mentioned under state list, Parliament can make law under Article 253 in order to give effect to an international treaty or agreement. Okay? Government of India has done an international treaty with some other country or agreement in UN or some other country. In order to give effect to that international treaty or agreement, Parliament can legislate over the matter mentioned in the state list, any matter, if in that treaty that matter is involved. ठीक है? ऐसे ही हवा में तो नहीं करेगा, matter अगर है involved तो कर सकता है. Any matter in the state list, Parliament can make law in order to give effect to an international treaty. Right? The parliament can make laws. The parliament can make laws on any matter in the state list. On any matter in the state list. Parliament can make laws on any matter in the state list for implementing the international treaties. For implementing the international treaties, agreements or conventions. ठीक है. Next, Article 356. ये क्या है? और President's rule. Article 356 is state emergency or President's rule. When President's rule is being imposed in the state, then Parliament assumes the law-making authority on the subjects mentioned in the state list over that state. ठीक है? And when the President's rule is over, what happens to the law made by Parliament? Never it ends. No, it remains intact. ठीक है? When Parliament makes a law over the subjects mentioned in the state list, and when that state is under President's rule by way of Article 356, that law continues even after the President's rule, unless and until it has been deleted, amended or altered by the state legislature जो अब election जीत के आए. समझा रही है बात? The life of this law is not dependent on the life of the President's rule. President's rule अगर कल ही खत्म हो जाएगा, law will continue unless and until the new state legislature will come and that want to delete this law, amend this law, they can do it. ठीक है? Right? Article 356. When the President's rule is imposed in a state, when the President's rule is imposed in a state, when the President's rule is imposed in a state, the Parliament becomes empowered. The Parliament becomes empowered to make laws on the subjects mentioned over state list, to make laws on the subjects mentioned in the state list of that state. Of that state. Full stop. A law made by Parliament in this regard. A law made by Parliament in this regard. Continues to be operative. Even after the President's rule. ठीक है? Even after the President's rule. Full stop. But such a law can be repealed or altered. But such a law can be repealed or altered or reenacted. Such a law can be repealed or altered or reenacted by the state legislature. Okay. Give the next heading, the fourth one, centers control over state legislation. ठीक है, सेंटर्स कंट्रोल ओवर व्हाट, स्टेट लेजिस्लेशन। एक तो होता है डायरेक्ट कंट्रोल, ऐसे जैसे हमने अभी पढ़ा, पार्लियामेंट एक्सरसाइजेस डायरेक्ट कंट्रोल, खुद लॉ बना रहा है, ठीक है। अंडर दीज सर्कमस्टांसेस पार्लियामेंट एंजॉयज द लॉ मेकिंग पावर ओवर द स्टेट लिस्ट, खुद। दूसरा होता है इनडायरेक्ट, आप ही बनाओ लेकिन अंडर माय वॉच और अंडर माय कमांड, ठीक है, आप ही बनाओ बट अंडर माय वॉच और अंडर माय कमांड, अंडर सेंटर्स वॉच और सेंटर्स कमांड। इसमें कंडीशंस है, कब होगा ऐसा, when center will command or keep a watch over the state legislations, when governor reserves the bill for president, ठीक है, it's up to the president of India then what to do with this, and president enjoys absolute veto over this bill, ठीक है। यहाँ पे रिकंसिडरेशन के बाद जब गवर्नर के पास पहुंचती है बिल, then it has to pass it, या इसके पास president when applies suspensive veto then it has to be given assent by the president, but इधर ऐसा नहीं है, when